Why Strong Souls Are Born into Toxic Families, Carl Jung's View on Trauma and Spiritual Wisdom. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. Khalil Gibran. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom. In today's video, we explore a profound truth. The strongest souls are often born into the most painful families, not as punishment, but as preparation. Drawing from Carl Jung's insights into trauma and spiritual awakening, we'll uncover how your early chaos may have been the crucible that shaped your purpose. This isn't just philosophy, it's a map for healing, for growth, and for stepping fully into your spiritual power. As you listen, ask yourself, how has your pain shaped your strength? Comment below and share your journey. Your story might inspire someone else to reclaim their light. 1. Pain as preparation, not punishment. Your difficult family isn't a punishment, it's a proving ground. It's not a cosmic mistake or some cruel twist of fate. It's the very place your soul chose to awaken, not to survive, but to transform. Carl Jung believed that every person has a deep inner drive toward individuation. The process of becoming whole, of discovering who we truly are beneath the conditioning and chaos. For strong souls, this journey often begins not in peace, but in dysfunction. When you are born into a toxic family, your soul enters a battlefield disguised as a home. And while others may crumble under the weight of criticism, rejection, and silence, you are different. You're not here to conform. You're here to break patterns that have lasted generations. Pain was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to carve you open so something greater could emerge. The betrayals, the emotional neglect, the pressure to be someone you're not, these weren't there to erase you. They were there to strip away the illusions, to awaken your inner compass, to sharpen your awareness of what is real. These experiences act as a spiritual furnace, burning away false identities and inherited dysfunctions so the soul can take shape in its raw, authentic form. When you're told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too different, it's not because you're weak. It's because your sensitivity is your spiritual radar. It's what allows you to detect what others ignore. It's what makes you capable of changing the trajectory of an entire bloodline. Men who have walked through fire do not come out the same. They either become bitter or they become builders. And when you choose to become a builder, when you take your pain and use it as the foundation for wisdom, empathy, and strength, you transcend the legacy of brokenness you were born into. The soul that is able to witness chaos without becoming it, to observe dysfunction without repeating it, is not only strong, it's sovereign. Jung believed that the shadow of the hidden parts of ourselves must be faced for us to become whole. And often, that shadow first shows itself through the reflection of our own family. The father who never showed up, the mother who couldn't see us, the siblings who turned cold. These aren't just stories, they're mirrors. They reflect the parts of ourselves we must reclaim, the wounds we must tend, and the truths we must stand in. This is why strong souls are born into toxic families, not because they deserve pain, but because they are spiritually equipped to turn that pain into purpose. They are not meant to blend in. They are meant to awaken. They're not here to carry on the legacy of dysfunction. They're here to end it. Through awareness, through courage, through the relentless pursuit of inner truth, they rise not in spite of where they came from, but because of it. Have you ever seen your pain as preparation rather than punishment? If so, share how it shaped your growth in the comments so others can be inspired. If not, comment, "I'm ready to grow," to affirm your journey toward becoming your truest self. 2. Chaos as the birthplace of growth. Comfort doesn't forge strength. Chaos does. And for many strong souls, their earliest memories are shaped not by safety, but by spiritual initiation disguised as dysfunction. Toxic families, far from being accidental, serve as crucibles where your inner fire is lit. In the absence of nurturing love, you are forced to search beyond the material world for answers. You seek connection not in what is spoken, but in what is felt. When love is withheld, the soul begins to hunger not for approval, but for truth. This hunger, painful as it may be, pushes you toward your spiritual path long before you even understand what a spiritual journey is. Carl Jung believed that the process of individuation, the path to becoming your most whole, authentic self, often begins in darkness. And there is no darker place for a child than a home where their light is dimmed, ignored, or punished. Yet this darkness is not the end. It's the beginning of a deeper kind of becoming. Growing up misunderstood, criticized, or emotionally neglected teaches you to sense energies rather than rely on words. You develop the ability to read the invisible tension in a room, the unsaid emotion behind a smile. What once made you feel like a burden becomes your greatest spiritual gift: sensitivity. That sensitivity isn't weakness, it's your compass. It helps you see what others cannot and feel what others deny. And when that compass is aligned with healing and self-awareness, it becomes a force of transformation. You are not merely reacting to life, you are decoding it. The chaos you survived becomes your map, and your soul begins to guide others using the terrain you once feared. You become the source of wisdom, the mirror of truth, and the voice of clarity for those still trapped in cycles you've already broken. What once felt like abandonment by the world becomes evidence that you are being chosen by something higher, called to awaken, to rise, and to embody a deeper truth. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that privilege is rarely found in comfort. It is revealed through trial, sculpted through heartbreak, and earned through 1,000 silent acts of courage. Your toxic family wasn't your soul's punishment. It was its training ground. Every rejection became a redirection. Every wound became an opening. Every silence taught you to hear your inner voice louder. And in those private battles, you were becoming something sacred. You were building a spiritual foundation that no one could see, but one day everyone would feel. Because strong souls are not made in safe places. They are born into the fire to learn how to carry light. And the ones who carry light despite never being given any are the ones who change the world from the inside out. Comment below, "I grow through chaos," if you're ready to turn your pain into power and let your soul rise above the noise. 3. Toxic families as spiritual sharpeners. Toxic families aren't where your spiritual gifts begin, but they are the crucibles where those gifts are sharpened into power. Manipulation doesn't create your intuition, but it forces you to develop it. Rejection doesn't generate self-worth, but it pushes you to seek it inwardly. Devaluation doesn't give you strength, but surviving it does. When you grew up and emotional unpredictability. In environments where love felt conditional and approval was earned through silence or obedience, you were pushed toward a divine connection, toward something beyond the chaos. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And sometimes that becoming begins in darkness. Spiritual evolution rarely begins in comfort. It begins where your soul is forced to awaken because everything around you feels unsafe, inauthentic, or cold. Your spiritual gifts, empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence aren't accidents. They are tools you forged in silence when no one heard your cries, and in chaos when no one offered clarity. You were probably called too sensitive, too emotional, or too intense because you felt things others refused to feel. But what they saw as weakness was actually your spiritual radar. In families where emotions were turned into weapons, your sensitivity was your survival. It became your compass, warning you of danger when words lied. It's not that you were broken, it's that you were breaking through. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self, often begins with a confrontation of the shadow, the unseen parts of your psyche shaped by trauma and repression. That's what you experienced. You weren't just surviving dysfunction. You were beginning your transformation. While others chased approval, you began to seek truth. While others stayed loyal to the roles assigned to them, you questioned the script. And in doing so, you began to awaken not just to the pain, but to your purpose. Every moment you were ignored or misunderstood became fuel for your inner fire. You learned to listen to what wasn't said. You developed a relationship with the unseen, the sacred, the spiritual, because the physical environment betrayed your trust. Pain became your teacher. Silence became your sanctuary. Loneliness became your initiation. The toxic family was not the end of your story. It was the threshold. It was the spiritual boot camp where your soul learned how to see clearly in the dark. Like Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But you didn't let your past write your fate. You made a conscious decision to grow, to wake up, and to choose love, not as something you beg for, but as something you are. And that perhaps is the most powerful transformation of all. If this message speaks to your journey, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue growing stronger through the fire together. 4. The black sheep and spiritual immunity. Being misunderstood or labeled the black sheep is not a flaw. It's often the most visible sign of deep spiritual strength. When your family cannot recognize your light, it is usually because your soul carries a vibration meant to disrupt the generational patterns they are still clinging to. You may feel cast out, invisible, or rejected, but those very wounds are what initiate you into spiritual maturity. Carl Jung taught that the process of individuation, the path to becoming whole, often begins with confrontation, not comfort. You develop what could only be called spiritual immunity, the inner ability to detach from the approval of others, to hear your soul clearly despite the noise of criticism, and to root your identity in something higher than the roles your family assigned to you. You are not meant to be defined by the wounds they projected onto you. You are meant to rise because of them. In toxic environments where love is conditional, gaslighting is normalized, and silence is used as a weapon, strong souls are forged in isolation. You begin to see that your emotional pain is not a punishment, it's a purification. Each rejection becomes a rite of passage. Each betrayal, a sharpening of your inner discernment. You stop chasing validation and start embodying truth. You no longer need to be seen because you have seen yourself. And in seeing yourself, you become untouchable. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's exactly what this path forces you to do. You accept the parts they couldn't love. You reclaim the traits they called too much, and you integrate what they tried to shame out of you. You walk forward, not with bitterness, but with boundaries, not with arrogance, but with awareness. Your spirit becomes so grounded in truth that no lie about you can shake you. This is what it means to be spiritually immune, not numb, not hardened, but sovereign. You begin to recognize that their inability to love you was never about you. It was about their inability to love themselves. And rather than shrink to fit their comfort, you expand into your calling. You stop performing for connection, and instead, you radiate from wholeness. You understand that being the black sheep is sacred work. It is soul work. It is the slow, quiet, and powerful return to the self. Do you feel the power in being the black sheep? If this message resonates with your soul, affirm it in the comments. I trust my inner voice and walk in divine strength. And if this speaks to your journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Someone else might need this reminder today. 5. Karmic assignment and shadow work. You were born into a karmic classroom, not by accident, but by sacred design, a soul agreement chosen before your first breath, placing you exactly where your spiritual evolution would be triggered. If your childhood felt like chaos, if your home was more of a war zone than a sanctuary, it's because your soul was strong enough to endure what others could not. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's what your life has asked of you, to face the unconscious, the buried, the painful, and to transform it into power. Toxic families don't create your wounds. They expose what's already been passed down: generational patterns, emotional suppression, inherited fear. And in doing so, they give you the raw material for your inner alchemy. You are not just surviving dysfunction. You are transmuting it into strength, truth, and spiritual depth. When others numb themselves or become replicas of their environment, you awaken. When others cling to false narratives, you seek clarity. And when others fall into cycles of blame, you begin the work of becoming conscious. That is shadow work in motion, the sacred task of integrating the parts of you that were rejected, hidden, or shamed. You were the one chosen to make sense of the madness, to see through the illusions, and to feel the pain that others avoided, because your presence is meant to break the cycle. This isn't just healing, it's spiritual leadership. You've been asked to confront betrayal and still choose love, to witness cruelty and still cultivate compassion, to walk through emotional fires and come out not bitter, but wise. That is not a weakness. That is divine resilience. Your soul knew that the only way to rise was to begin in the depths. The chaos wasn't a mistake. It was a sacred forge. And in that forge, your spiritual gifts sharpened your intuition, your empathy, your inner strength. While others stayed blind to the patterns, you saw them. While others passed them on, you decided they end with you. You are not broken because of your family's dysfunction. You are awakening because of it. And though the journey is brutal, it is also holy. You're not just healing for yourself, you're healing for the ones before you, for the ones to come, and for the world that benefits from your light. Every trigger was a teacher. Every wound was a doorway. And every time you chose growth over comfort, soul over ego, truth over denial, you reclaimed a piece of your spiritual authority. This is what it means to walk the path of the awakened soul, to take what was meant to destroy you and turn it into something sacred, something that blesses others. Your spiritual legacy is not built in comfort, it's born in fire, and you, beloved, are the flame. Are you ready to face your karmic lessons and embrace the shadows that shaped you? If so, comment below. I embrace the shadow to affirm your commitment to healing and spiritual transformation. 6. The sacred scapegoat role. In many families, the one who gets blamed, misunderstood, or pushed aside is often the very soul carrying the highest spiritual assignment. The scapegoat is never chosen by accident. It is a sacred role disguised as rejection. When you refuse to lie, when you speak uncomfortable truths, when your emotional honesty disrupts the illusion that everything is fine, you are not being difficult. You are being divinely guided. Carl Jung believed that the journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole, often begins in darkness, through suffering that cracks open the false self. Souls like yours are placed into dysfunctional systems not to mirror them, but to unravel them from within. Your refusal to conform, to fake harmony, or to participate in emotional denial is not defiance, it is spiritual integrity. You are not the weakest link in the family chain. You are the link that refuses to pass the pain forward. This path feels lonely because it is rare. While others numb themselves or pretend, you feel deeply and see clearly. And that vision makes you a threat to systems built on silence. When you challenge toxic behavior, you become the lightning rod for ancestral pain. But your soul knew this before you arrived. It chose this path not for comfort, but for transformation. You were never meant to maintain the family pattern, you were sent to end it. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And to become who you truly are often means being misunderstood, rejected, or blamed because the truth always stings before it heals. Your soul holds the frequency of change, which is why you trigger those who fear it. But being the scapegoat doesn't mean you are broken. It means your soul is too awake to play small, too aware to lie to itself, and too strong to submit to dysfunction. You were never meant to blend into a broken system. You were meant to expose it lovingly, but powerfully. Even when your voice shakes, even when you stand alone. This pain is not punishment, it is preparation. The burden you carry is not yours alone, it is ancestral. And the courage you show by refusing to stay silent is what begins the healing for generations before and after you. You are not here to be accepted by those who cannot see clearly. You are here to shine so brightly that their blindness becomes unbearable. That is the sacred fire you carry. So if your family couldn't handle your light, it's because it wasn't meant to comfort them. It was meant to awaken them. And whether they wake up or not, your soul has done its part. You weren't born to keep the peace. You were born to create real peace by ending what never should have been passed down in the first place. That's the power of the scapegoat. That's the power of your soul. If you've ever felt like the family scapegoat, know that your courage has meaning. Subscribe now for more wisdom on transforming pain into purpose and breaking generational cycles with spiritual strength. 7. 3 soul survival tools. When you're born into a toxic family, your soul isn't being punished, it's being prepared. The pain, the chaos, the constant walking on eggshells aren't signs of weakness. They're soul-forging fires designed to awaken your deeper truth. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And in toxic families, darkness is often all around you. Criticism disguised as concern, rejection masked as tradition, manipulation veiled as love. But even in that storm, your soul is equipped with tools that keep you tethered to your divine purpose. The first is what we can call the divine umbilical cord, an unbreakable, radiant lifeline between you and your source. This inner cord is invisible, yet it holds more power than any earthly bond. When your physical family fails to provide emotional safety, this divine connection offers you spiritual nourishment and emotional regulation. It reminds you that you belong not to dysfunction, but to the divine intelligence that birthed your soul. When the world goes silent or hostile, that cord whispers, "You are not alone." But to navigate this path with clarity, you must also master shadow projection awareness, a principle rooted deeply in Carl Jung's teachings. What your family says about you often reveals more about their inner wounds than your worth. The insults, dismissals, and blame are rarely reflections of your identity. They are projections of their denied and suppressed selves. Jung taught that the shadow is everything within us we refuse to see. And in toxic dynamics, these shadows are constantly hurled outward. The moment you internalize their pain as your truth, you begin to abandon yourself. But when you learn to see their cruelty as a mirror of their inner turmoil, not your failure, you reclaim your emotional power. You become less reactive, more rooted in who you truly are, and you stop bleeding energy over lies that were never yours to carry. Still, awareness is not enough without action, and that's where boundaries and distance come in. It's often said that blood is thicker than water, but the truth is, soul health matters more than tradition. Creating space, whether emotional or physical, from those who harm you is not an act of betrayal. It's an act of sacred protection. Carl Jung once noted that loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. In toxic families, your truth is often unwelcome, your light too blinding. Choosing peace over proximity is not giving up, it's growing up. Distance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about your healing more. It gives your nervous system room to breathe, your spirit a chance to recalibrate, and your soul the space to remember its own voice. When these 3 tools are honored, the divine umbilical cord, shadow projection awareness, and boundaries with distance, you begin to transform, not in spite of your story, but because of it. Your soul, forged in fire, doesn't just survive, it evolves. If this message resonated with your soul, affirm your journey in the comments by writing, "I protect my light, I trust my source, and I choose peace." Let this be your declaration of inner strength. And if this video brought clarity or comfort, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual wisdom. Thank you for taking this journey with us today. Remember, being born into a toxic family doesn't mean you were cursed. It means your soul was chosen for a higher path. Your strength, your insight, and your sensitivity are not weaknesses. They are spiritual gifts meant to transform not just your life, but the world around you. Carl Jung believed that the journey through trauma leads to individuation, the becoming of your true self. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this wisdom, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content that speaks to your soul. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of transformation. Your healing is sacred. Your journey is divine. And your story is just beginning. How the universe tests you before changing your reality. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like everything was falling apart right before everything changed? What if those moments weren't punishment, but preparation? In today's video, how the universe tests you. Before changing your reality, we explore the hidden wisdom behind life's toughest tests, and how your inner transformation is often the key to unlocking a new external reality. If this resonates with your journey, comment below. I trust the process, and let us know how life has been testing you lately. Make sure to subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content that empowers your growth and spiritual awakening. 1. Life isn't punishing you, it's preparing you. What you often mistake for punishment is, in truth, preparation. Life doesn't randomly bring pain. It orchestrates experiences to sharpen your soul for what you've asked for. You may be striving, hoping, praying for a breakthrough, but nothing moves. Instead, you're met with resistance, silence, or even loss. It's in these moments, when things feel stuck or unbearable, that the universe is not ignoring you. It's constructing the version of you that can carry the reality you've been asking for. Carl Jung taught that real transformation doesn't begin when your mind decides. It begins when your unconscious is ready. You may consciously desire success, love, peace, or change. But if the deeper layers of your psyche are still burdened by fear, doubt, or unresolved wounds, you will unknowingly block what you seek. The universe isn't withholding your dreams out of cruelty. It's waiting for your energy to align with them. That alignment happens not through forcing or pretending, but through inner integration. This is why certain chapters in your life feel repetitive. You attract the same kind of people, fall into the same patterns, face the same emotional storms. It's not because you're cursed. It's because you're still being trained. You're still in the process of building spiritual and emotional muscle. The universe sends the same test until your reaction changes, until you respond with consciousness instead of fear, with self-respect instead of desperation. Consider a person who keeps searching for love, but ends up with emotionally unavailable partners. On the surface, they seem ready, but deep down, they still carry an unconscious story. Love abandons me, or I have to earn love by proving my worth. The universe responds not to their wish list, but to their unconscious frequency. So it brings mirrors, not punishments. And when those mirrors break them open, it's not to destroy them, but to reveal the very beliefs that must be dissolved. In this way, the universe is a wise teacher. It doesn't operate on your timeline, it operates on your alignment. If you're asking for something massive, something life-altering, then you must become the version of you who won't crumble under the weight of it. That means letting go of old identities. That means sitting in discomfort. That means being stripped of illusions so that clarity can take root. Carl Jung saw life not as a series of random moments, but as a process of individuation, a journey where your outer world reflects the integration of your inner self. Every delay, every loss, every confusing season is part of that sacred path. You aren't stuck. You're being stripped, purified, and recalibrated. What you're going through is the initiation before the expansion. The tests come first, then the rewards. But the greatest reward isn't just what you receive, it's who you become along the way. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What in me is being strengthened?" Every challenge is a portal. Every silence is a classroom. And when the time is right, not when your ego demands it, but when your soul is aligned, everything you've asked for will arrive. Not a moment too early and never too late. Are you ready to trust that what feels like delay is actually divine preparation? If so, comment below. I trust the process to affirm your commitment to inner growth and breakthrough. 2. Before the shift comes the silence. You may think nothing is happening when your world goes quiet. No signs, no progress, no breakthroughs, just stillness. But this isn't punishment. It's not a failure. This is the sacred space known as the void. It's that in-between phase where everything feels frozen, yet beneath the surface, something powerful is shifting. According to the principle of rhythm in Hermetic philosophy, life moves like a pendulum. It swings backward before it moves forward. This means that the stillness you're experiencing is part of the universal rhythm. It's the preparation before expansion, the darkness before the dawn, the winter before the spring. In this space, you may feel isolated, uncertain, or even abandoned. People may disappear. Opportunities may dry up. Your confidence may start to crack. But this too is the test. The universe is pulling you inward, not to break you, but to build you. The spiritual wisdom in this is simple. The silence isn't the end. It's the foundation. Just like a seed breaks open in the dark before it ever reaches the light, your transformation is unfolding where no one can see it, not even you. Carl Jung taught that change begins when the unconscious becomes conscious. But that awakening doesn't happen in noise. It happens in solitude. That's why life goes silent before it shifts. In that silence, your ego has less control. You begin to see things more clearly. The illusions fall away, and your soul begins to take the lead. The void becomes a mirror, reflecting your deepest fears, beliefs, and desires, not to shame you, but to cleanse you. To strip away what no longer belongs so that you can finally become who you were meant to be. This is the moment where you're not just waiting for life to change, you are being changed. Not externally, but internally. You're being stretched, refined, rewired, so that when the breakthrough comes, it doesn't just visit you, it stays with you. Because now, you're finally able to hold it. The universe never withholds blessings. It simply waits until you're energetically ready to receive them. And that readiness is forged in the stillness, not the striving. What makes this phase so difficult is that modern life tells us progress must look like movement. We're taught that growth equals action. But true transformation often looks like doing nothing, like sitting in the quiet, like trusting when there's no evidence. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom, knowing that what appears empty may be the most full moment of your life. That silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening in a way your eyes can't yet see. So if you're in that pause, don't rush out of it. Don't try to force clarity or grasp for signs. Sit with it. Listen to it. Let it do its work on you. Because once you pass this test of trust and surrender, life begins to move again, and it moves in your favor. You don't just return to where you were. You rise, higher, deeper, wiser, aligned not with your fears, but with your soul. That's when reality begins to shift, not just around you, but through you. If you're ready to trust the stillness and honor the rhythm of life, comment below. I embrace the silence before the shift. This moment of stillness is sacred. Let it prepare you for what's coming. 3. The test is internal, not external. The universe doesn't test your worth. It tests your readiness. It doesn't care about how perfect you look on the outside, how much you've achieved, or how confident you pretend to be. What it truly cares about is whether you are aligned with your truth. When you're going through emotional pain, when people disappoint you, or when everything around you feels stuck, it's not a punishment. It's a mirror. Life is reflecting the unhealed parts of you that are still clinging to illusions, attachments, false identities, and the need for control. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what happens when we ignore the inner tests that life presents to us. What triggers you emotionally isn't the real problem. The real issue lies beneath the surface in the wounds you haven't yet healed, in the stories you keep telling yourself, and in the expectations that were never really yours to begin with. Rejection, for example, may feel like someone turning their back on you. But on a deeper level, it's often a sign that you've been outsourcing your self-worth to their validation. The universe removes what you cling to, not to hurt you, but to show you that you never needed it in the first place. What you thought was loss is often liberation in disguise. Stagnation is another internal test. When things stop moving, when your plans don't go forward, and life seems unresponsive, it's easy to panic or spiral into self-doubt. But maybe the delay is sacred. Maybe the stillness is life protecting you from making a move that isn't aligned with your soul's highest path. It's in this space that spiritual awakening happens. The silence between what you thought you wanted and what you're truly meant for creates the room for self-awareness to grow. As the mystic Rumi said, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." That is the essence of trust, believing that what is taken from you is not the end, but the start of your transformation. Each emotional trigger is a doorway. Each disappointment is a compass. Each setback is a spiritual checkpoint. The question is not, "Why is this happening to me?" but what belief, story, or pattern is being exposed through this experience. This is the turning point. When you can sit with your discomfort and ask, "What is this showing me about myself?" you shift from victimhood to empowerment. You stop resisting reality and begin to shape it with clarity and intention. That's when the universe opens new doors. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with the frequency that matches your next level. The test is always internal. It's about choosing awareness over reaction, surrender over control, presence over fear. Spiritual awakening means you no longer interpret pain as failure, but as feedback. You start recognizing that your external world is only responding to the depth of your inner world. And the more clarity, self-respect, and peace you cultivate within, the less chaos you attract outside. When you stop trying to fix the world and instead choose to face yourself honestly, everything around you begins to shift naturally. If you're ready to pass the test within and rise beyond the illusion of control, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's heal together, grow together, and trust the timing of the universe. 4. You must respond, not react. Spiritual awakening is not about escaping emotions. It's about responding to them with new awareness. You used to react in the heat of the moment, angry words, anxious decisions, silent withdrawals. But now, something in you pauses. Something waits. You've begun to notice the space between what happens and what you choose. That space is power. And in that space, your new self is born. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your past reactions weren't flaws. They were patterns shaped by wounds, fear, and old survival instincts. But every time you pause, breathe, and respond with clarity instead of chaos, you break the cycle. You reclaim your energy. The universe will always check your growth. It sends familiar storms, the same temptations, the same silences, the same disrespect. But this time, you don't flinch. You don't fight back. You don't run. You hold yourself. That's the test. Can you hold your center when nothing outside you makes sense? Can you walk through confusion without demanding answers? That is what transformation looks like. Stillness in the noise. Calm in the chaos. Silence that's not fear, but power. You're not here to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You're not here to win every argument or chase every closure. Sometimes, the real flex is in not engaging, in keeping your dignity, in choosing your peace over your pride. And while others may think you're silent because you're weak, you know the truth you're silent because you no longer need to shout to be heard. The noise is gone from your spirit. Let's say someone close to you does the very thing that used to send you spiraling, rejects you, criticizes you, abandons you. The old you would panic. The old you would over-explain, over-please, overthink. But now, you breathe. You listen. You feel the emotion rise, but you no longer let it own you. You feel sadness, but it doesn't drown you. You feel anger, but it doesn't define you. You simply respond with grace, with strength, with knowing. That's the shift. Not the disappearance of pain, but the mastery of it. Carl Jung's work reminds us that growth begins when you stop blaming the world and start examining the lens through which you see it. And that lens, over time, becomes clearer, not through comfort, but through the tension that stretches you. You become resilient, not by avoiding triggers, but by facing them and no longer being ruled by them. Your story no longer controls you. You rewrite it as you go. Real growth isn't visible on the outside. It's in the moment you choose not to send that reactive text. The moment you walk away with peace instead of needing to be right. The moment you no longer internalize someone else's mood as your fault. Those small choices, repeated consistently, rebuild your identity. And the universe takes note. Not with applause, but with new levels of alignment. Because now, you've shown that your peace is no longer situational, it's sacred. Do you feel the shift within you of the quiet strength to respond, not react? If this message speaks to your soul, declare it in the comments. I choose to respond with peace. 5. Pain is a sign of shedding the old self. Pain is not a sign of failure. It is evidence of transformation. When life begins to shift, and your emotions intensify, you are not falling apart. You are shedding everything that is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. The emotional weight pressing down on you is the release of outdated roles, attachments, and self-perceptions. The discomfort is the ego resisting its own dissolution, clinging to identities built from fear, survival, and conditioning. But this resistance is exactly what Carl Jung warned us about when he said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." This is not simply a quote, it's a roadmap through the spiritual fires of rebirth. What you're experiencing is the sacred unraveling of your former self. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. In moments of deep pain, your soul is whispering, "Make space for something greater." And yet, most people misinterpret this phase. They think something's gone wrong. But in truth, you are being emptied to hold something far more expensive than what you were settling for. Your nervous system is not malfunctioning. It's being rewired. Your sadness, your fear, your confusion, these are not breakdowns. They are signals of a breakthrough. The old self can't carry the frequency of the life you've asked for. If you want expansion, the container must grow. If you want peace, the chaos within must be exposed. You don't get to rise while staying the same. You must be stripped, undone, remade. This spiritual wisdom is not easy to live through, but it is the only way to embody your higher self. When everything feels like it's collapsing, when nothing feels certain, when all your anchors seem to vanish, that is the void. And the void is not a curse. It is a portal. It's the space where the old identity dies and the new one is still forming. The problem is, we often resist the void. We run from it. We numb it. We try to rebuild what we lost. But the universe won't let you go backward when your soul is ready for more. So it tests you not to see if you're worthy, but to help you recognize your own strength. It strips away false comfort so you can find real peace. It takes away distractions so you can meet yourself in silence. This is not a breakdown. It's a divine reordering. Think about the person who finally leaves the relationship that drained their spirit. At first, there's relief. But then come the waves of doubt, grief, fear. It feels like everything inside them is breaking. But that pain is not regression. It's recalibration. Their soul is adjusting to a new frequency of self-worth, one that doesn't tolerate being unseen. Or the person who quits the job that suffocated their creativity. The uncertainty feels unbearable. But what's really happening is that their energy is being redirected toward purpose and alignment. When you stop resisting what's leaving, you begin to receive what's meant. Acceptance doesn't mean you love the pain. It means you trust its purpose. You start asking deeper questions, not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this trying to awaken in me?" That shift in perception is where the transformation begins. This is spiritual awakening, not something magical that happens overnight, but a raw, soul-level initiation that redefines who you are. You are not breaking down. You are becoming whole. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding everything you are not. And though it hurts, that pain is sacred. It is carving out space within you for the truth of your being to rise. This is not the end. It is the sacred beginning of your next chapter. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how your deepest pain is often the beginning of your transformation. And if you're ready to release the old and rise into your true self, comment below. I welcome the new me. 6. True transformation happens in the void. The void is not emptiness, it is sacred space. While many fear this phase because it lacks clarity, results, or validation, it is, in truth, the crucible of transformation. The void strips away your ego's need for applause and demands something deeper: presence without proof, purpose without reward. In this quiet realm, your soul is not just waiting, it is being reshaped. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The universe isn't testing your desire, it's refining your identity. It watches not for what you wish to receive, but for who you become when nothing seems to be working. When you feel invisible, when no one affirms you, when outcomes delay, and the silence grows louder, that is the moment of spiritual awakening. It is here that you are asked to remain truthful, consistent, and aligned, even when nothing is guaranteed. Can you keep your heart open when it's easier to shut down? Can you act with integrity when no one is watching? This is where the old self dissolves, and the new self is born not through comfort, but through conscious surrender. And that surrender is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." The void forces you inward. It removes distractions so that you may meet yourself without illusion. There, you realize that everything you thought you needed recognition, progress, signs is secondary to what you actually need: clarity of soul, rootedness in being. This inner clarity is what shifts your outer world. When you no longer seek external validation, you become truly unshakable. The void teaches you that the peace you were searching for was never out there. It was waiting to be remembered within you. Throughout history, the most awakened beings were formed in the void. Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. Buddha found enlightenment through silence and stillness. Jung encountered his deepest insights in solitude. They didn't skip this stage, they embraced it. And that is why their transformation endured. Because they didn't just want change, they became the vessel capable of holding it. This is what the universe asks of you: to hold yourself with grace when there is no applause, to be your own anchor when everything is uncertain. This space, this silence, this sacred pause is not the end. It is the hidden beginning of something vast and powerful. If you're walking through it now, do not rush the process. Let it shape you. Let it soften you. Let it burn away what is not you. Because when the shift finally comes, you will not just step into a new reality, you will step into it as someone entirely new. And that, above all, is what the void was preparing you for. If this message speaks to your soul, declare it with faith. I am becoming who I'm meant to be, even in the silence. I trust the void is sacred. Type it in the comments to affirm your transformation. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a message meant just for you. 7. Manifestation is about embodiment, not wishing. You don't manifest by wishing, hoping, or demanding. You manifest by embodying. That means becoming, right now, the version of yourself who already lives in the reality you desire. The law of attraction doesn't respond to your surface thoughts or desperate requests. It responds to the frequency you consistently radiate. As Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your energy, not your words, is what the universe listens to. Manifestation is not about shouting your desires louder. It's about aligning your emotional and energetic state with the reality you claim to want. If you're asking for peace, but your inner world is full of resistance, reactivity, or chaos, there's a contradiction. You say you want love, but your nervous system is bracing for heartbreak. You say you want abundance, but your body is still carrying the frequency of lack. The universe is not fooled by declarations. It responds to consistency. Your energy has to tell one clear story. This is where most people unconsciously sabotage themselves. Their desires speak one language, but their frequency speaks another. Think about it like this. There's a woman named Sarah who repeats affirmations every morning about finding a healthy, loving relationship. She's doing the journaling, the vision boards, the meditations. But deep down, she doesn't trust love. She's been betrayed before. Her body tightens when she thinks about vulnerability. So even though her mind says, "I want love," her energy says love isn't safe. That's the frequency the universe hears. Not the pretty words, the emotional truth beneath them. Carl Jung would call this the influence of the shadow of those unseen, unresolved patterns that run our lives until we consciously integrate them. To truly manifest something new, you have to become a new version of yourself. That's not about pretending or faking it. It's about shifting your identity, your self-image, your emotional foundation. When your thoughts, beliefs, body, and actions align, that's when the field responds. That's when synchronicities begin. That's when the universe says yes, not because you forced it, but because you matched it. Your job is to become the living embodiment of the future you seek, without needing proof, without needing validation. That is the real spiritual wisdom behind manifestation. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If what you desire hasn't arrived, it's not because the universe is late. It's because something within you is still resisting alignment. Your fear, your doubt, your emotional wounds may be blocking the transmission. So instead of chasing your desires, become them. Instead of trying to control outcomes, anchor your energy. Ask yourself, if I already had it, how would I feel? And then feel that now. Live from that frequency. Speak from that identity. Breathe from that inner truth. Jung's work reminds us that real change doesn't come from outer effort. It comes from inner transformation. This is what spiritual embodiment really means. You don't just think differently, you are different. The shift happens not when you convince the universe, but when you convince yourself. When your inner world becomes so stable, peaceful, and clear, your outer reality has no choice but to mirror it. That's the moment manifestation stops being a mystery and becomes a natural reflection of who you've become. If this message resonates with you, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video that helps you align with your highest self. Type in the comments, "I am aligned with the reality I desire," to anchor your embodiment and start manifesting from within. 8. You become the miracle. The long silence was not a punishment. It was sacred preparation. Every delay, every unanswered prayer, every painful wait wasn't holding you back. It was reshaping you. While it felt like life had paused, your soul was in motion. The universe wasn't withholding your destiny. It was forming you into the person capable of holding it. Nothing was wasted. The heartbreaks, the setbacks, the nights spent in confusion and surrender were not obstacles. They were sacred tools in your becoming. You weren't waiting for a breakthrough. You were the breakthrough in progress. You no longer have to chase transformation because you are the transformation. You've outgrown begging for signs, begging for change, begging for someone to choose you. Your presence is now the answer. You are no longer asking for the door to open. You've become the door. That is spiritual wisdom. When the miracle stops being something outside of you and starts becoming who you are. The old you was waiting for a reward. The new you is the reward. Life doesn't owe you anything. It simply reflects what you have become. And now, what's coming isn't compensation for your suffering. It's a reflection of your evolution. What you attract now is different because you are different. Your frequency has changed. You no longer seek validation because you've remembered your value. You no longer crave attention because you've reclaimed your energy. The world mirrors your vibration, not your desire. You don't manifest from longing. You manifest from embodiment. What's ahead of you will look like a gift, but it's actually a mirror of your self-worth, your growth, your healing, and your spiritual wisdom. The universe doesn't give based on begging. It gives based on becoming. And you, through every quiet season, every dark night of the soul, have become. So when you look at what is unfolding, don't be surprised. Be aware. You're not lucky. You're aligned. You didn't force this. You allowed it. You became it. The version of you that once prayed for change has stepped aside to make room for the version of you who is the change. That's why life looks different. That's why people treat you differently. That's why doors are opening. Why energy feels lighter. Why opportunities now arrive unannounced. Because you no longer vibrate in desperation, you vibrate in truth. To affirm the power of who you've become, comment below, "I am the miracle." Let it be a declaration of your growth and a reminder to others that transformation begins within. And remember this, the universe is never punishing you. It's preparing you. Every delay, every obstacle, every emotional trigger is a test of your readiness to receive the life you've asked for. When you begin to respond with awareness instead of reaction, you're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. You're aligned with transformation. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this truth, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that continue to guide your awakening journey. Stay grounded, stay faithful, and trust the process.